Thank you for being here. I hope you can settle in, relax, and enjoy this journey across the stars. If this story touches you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, or share it with someone who may enjoy it too. Now, let us step into a dying valley, where one small field may prove that hope is not gone. Ari Vela kept the last seed from her mother inside a copper locket, close enough to feel its weight when hunger made her hand shake. The locket was small, dented, and warm from her skin. It held no food, no medicine, and no way to pay the debt markers nailed to half the doors in Lith. Still, every morning before dust rose over Marenfall, Ari touched it and remembered that her people had not always been called barren. The Valari women had once kept seed houses for the Eastern Valley. They knew which roots could drink hard water, which leaves turned pale before a storm, and which soil needed rest after a bitter season. Outsiders called that memory superstition, and the land office called it insufficient proof. Ari called it what was left. On the morning she first crossed the fence line of the human farm, she did not come to beg. Two women walked behind her, both thin beneath their dust wraps, both carrying digging forks. They had found bitter roots growing near the boundary ditch, close enough to be called theft if the human chose to make it so. Ari saw him before he saw them. Cole Whitaker stood beside a rattling water pump with one sleeve rolled to the shoulder. He was broad through the chest, sun-darkened, and still in a way old stone was still. He listened to the pump as if it were speaking, then shut the valve, struck the casing once with the heel of his hand, and caught a loosened bolt before it dropped into the dust. He did not look like the soft traders who arrived in polished crawlers. He did not look like the mine guards who smiled with one hand on a weapon. He moved like a man who counted exits before entering a room. That made Ari trust him less. The youngest woman behind her coughed into her sleeve. The sound was dry and metallic, and Cole looked up. His eyes went to the digging forks, then to their empty sacks, then to Ari's face. He did not reach for a weapon. He did not ask why they were there. Ari stepped forward before he could speak. "We will repair the broken fence," she said, "in exchange for roots and water." Cole looked at the fence, then at the bitter weeds near the ditch. "You do not need to repair a fence for weeds," he said. "Nothing given to us has stayed free." The human was quiet for a moment. The wind dragged silver dust across the field between them. Then he nodded once. "Fair enough. The east hinge is loose. Water is by the shade tank. Take what you need for the work." Ari had expected pity. Pity was easy to refuse. She had expected insult. Insult was easier. What she did not expect was a man who let the bargain stand. The women worked for half an hour. Cole did not hover. He returned to the pump, but Ari felt him notice the way one of her women swayed when she bent too low. A short time later, he placed a sealed canteen and 3 food packs on a flat stone near the fence. He said nothing. He made no demand, and he placed no claim on them. Ari left 1 pack untouched. Pride did not fill an empty stomach, but it kept the door from closing behind you. As they were leaving, Cole picked up the canteen the coughing woman had brought from the village. He opened it and smelled the water. His face changed in a way so small Ari almost missed it. "Where did this come from?" he asked. "Our well. Your old well or the sealed one?" Ari's fingers closed around the locket. "You know our wells? I know that smell." She waited for him to say more. He did not. He poured a little water into his palm and rubbed it between finger and thumb, watching the stain it left. Ari said, "If you're selling filters, say it now." "I'm not selling anything." "Then why ask?" Cole set the canteen down. "Because water should not smell like a battlefield." The word made one of Ari's women step back. Humans carried war stories across the settled worlds. Valari traders said humans could turn any tool into a weapon and any border into a grave. Ari had never met one closely enough to know if that was true. The village of Lith sat in a low basin east of Cole's farm. From a distance, it looked abandoned. Up close, the truth was worse. It was inhabited by people who had learned to move quietly so hunger would not hear them. Roof panels were patched with crepe metal. The old seed house was locked with 3 handmade bars. Debt markers hung on half the doorposts like small black teeth. Cole slowed at the edge of the village. Ari noticed that he looked at the women first, not the markers. He saw Ressa hauling a water cart with a cracked wheel. He saw Mara's old mother grinding dry stalks into meal. He saw the empty racks where seed trays should have rested. He said nothing. She led him to the old well behind a collapsed greenhouse. "You may look," she said. "You may not touch the seed house. You may not read our debt papers. You may not make promises to my people." Cole glanced at her. "You set hard lines. We survived because I learned to." He knelt by the well casing and opened the cheap filter Sloan had sold him 2 seasons before. Sloan was the merchant who had promised recovery fertilizer and easy credit. His supplies had left Lith with weaker fields and heavier debt. Cole scraped a gray film from inside the filter core and held it to the light. Then he moved to the nearest dead row and dug with his fingers until he reached the root layer. His hand stopped. Ari saw a thin band of pale residue running through the soil like a scar. Cole took a breath through his nose. His jaw tightened. "This soil did not fail by itself," he said. Ari laughed once without humor. "Every trader says that before selling the next cure." "I'm not selling you a cure." "Then what are you selling?" Cole looked up from the dirt. "If I am wrong, you owe me nothing. If I am right, someone killed your land and made you pay for the funeral." She let him take 3 samples. By dusk, Cole had gone back to his farm. Ari told herself she would not expect him to return. People from outside came to Lith in 2 kinds: those who took and those who promised before they took. Cole returned the next morning with a canvas kit, 2 clean jars, and no smile. He did not enter the village square until Ari allowed it. "The recovery fertilizer from Sloan," he said. "I need to know where you used it first." Ari folded her arms. "You tested it?" "Yes. And it weakens the roots. It locks the minerals where young plants feed. After 1 season, the damage looks like natural collapse." Ari stared at him. The square had gone quiet around them. Ressa whispered, "We used it everywhere." "No," Ari said, "not everywhere." She went to the seed house and returned with a rolled cloth map. It was stained from many hands. Lines of Valari marks crossed it in brown, green, and ash gray. Cole did not pretend to understand it. Ari tapped the first mark. This road died after the north wind season. This one after the new filter. This field kept water until the year the mine road cracked. This corner grew silverleaf before my mother died. One of the older women lowered her eyes. The map was not official. It had no land office stamp. To outsiders, it was an old woman's memory kept by daughters who refused to forget. Cole crouched beside it and placed his jars on the cloth. "Show me the places where the water changed taste first." Ari did. He marked them on a scrap of paper. Then he marked the places where Sloan's fertilizer had been used. Then he marked the direction of the old helix or drainage trench beyond the ridge. Helix, or wanted this valley for the minerals under it. The company could not take Lith while the settlement still had a legal right to live there. But if the land office declared the village abandoned and barren, the ground could be leased for mining. The 3 lines on Cole's paper curved into one another. "We blamed ourselves," Ari said. Cole's voice was low. "You were not wrong about the land. You were denied the tools to prove you were right." Ari wanted to be angry at him. She wanted to call that another human phrase, neat and useless. But the women around her were looking at the map, as if it had begun speaking after years of being mocked into silence. Then Cole asked the question that made the ground feel thinner under her feet. "When is the final land inspection?" Ari did not answer at once. 30 days, she said. Cole's expression hardened. Under Marinfall frontier law, a settlement that could not prove productive use of its land through one growing cycle could be reclassified as an abandoned barren holding. The phrase sounded clean in office papers. In real life, it meant Lith would lose its right to stay. Once that happened, Helix or could move in with mining machines. The Valari women would lose the village, and the land beneath their homes would become a claim on someone else's ledger. Cole listened as Ari explained the rest. The main well was sealed for debt. The food stores would last 12 days if they watered the soup thin. The seed stock was nearly gone. Sloan's contract allowed him to call on the whole debt if they accepted outside agricultural aid. When Ari finished, Cole looked toward the dead fields. We do not need to save the valley in 30 days, he said. We need one living field. One field will not feed us. No, it will not feed the village yet. But it can prove the soil is not truly dead. It can prove Lith is still a living settlement, and that your people still have the right to stay. Ari studied him. Humans make war out of everything, do they not? Sometimes, Cole said. Sometimes we make a line and hold it. He proposed a small plot behind the broken greenhouse. They would clean water through charcoal and clay, plant mineral-pulling weeds first, build a low greenhouse from scrap panels, and split any real seed into separate stores. We need native seed, he said. Ari touched the locket before she could stop herself. Cole noticed. He waited. She hated him a little for waiting. It gave her time to choose, and choice was harder than refusal. At last, she opened the locket. Inside lay a single dark seed, shriveled and smooth, wrapped in a thread of pale cloth. My mother carried this from the last good harvest, Ari said. It is dead. Cole held out his palm, then stopped. May I? That question did more damage to her suspicion than any promise could have done. Ari placed the seed in his hand. If you lose it, she said, do not come back. I will. Bring it back before sunrise. He did. It will not sprout on its own, he said. But the inner trace is still there. It proves your native crop was alive here before the poisoning. Ari closed her fingers around the locket. Her throat tightened, but she did not let the tears rise. My mother said the land remembered us. She may have been right. The work began that day. Cole did not arrive like a commander. He arrived with tools, filters, meal sacks, and a notebook. Ari assigned the women because the field was still theirs. Ressa led the water team because she knew every buried pipe. Nima led the greenhouse repairs because her hands were steady with broken metal. Tavi kept the seed counts because she trusted numbers more than hope. Ari kept the map. Cole taught them how to layer charcoal, sand, clay, and ash to pull the worst taste from the water. He showed them how to cover soil so it did not lose its last moisture to wind. He planted bitter blue weed in the first strip, not for food, but to draw poison up through its roots. When a filter cracked, he repaired it. When a trench collapsed, he climbed into the mud first. When Ressa apologized for moving slowly, he handed her a shorter shovel. Work that keeps you standing is better than work that drops you, he said. Ari heard that. She also saw what he did not do. He did not name the field after himself. He did not call the women his crew. He did not touch the seed house without permission. When someone asked him what to plant in the center row, he looked to Ari. Your field, he said. On the 7th day, Ari led Cole to the old north corner of the plot. My mother planted there after the dry year, she said. The leaves grew small, but they lived. Cole looked at the soil. His instruments said the center rows were safer. Ari's memory said the north corner had once resisted the damage. He chose the north corner. You trust old stories now? She asked. I trust field records. Yours are older than mine. They planted there at dusk. 5 days later, the first green point broke through the soil. It was so small Ari almost missed it. Cole saw it first, but he did not call. The others. He stepped back and looked at her. Ari knelt. The sprout trembled in the weak light inside the low greenhouse. It was not enough to feed one person. It was barely enough to cast a shadow. Yet for a moment, the whole dead valley seemed to draw breath. Then the west road filled with dust. Derek Sloan arrived in a white crawler with 2 collectors and Mara Vin from the land office. Sloan had a soft face, soft hands, and the kind of smile that never reached places where shame might live. Mara carried the authority to turn debt into seizure. Ari Vela, Sloan called. We hear you have accepted unauthorized agricultural intervention. Ari stood at the greenhouse door. Cole stood behind her, not in front. Sloan's eyes moved over Cole's work clothes and scarred hands. A human soldier playing farmer, he said. That is new. Former soldier, Cole said. Former soldiers are usually worse. They miss being obeyed. Cole did not rise to it. Mara Vin held up a contract slate. The settlement of Lith agreed to exclusive recovery support through Sloan's seasonal supply. Outside intervention may trigger full debt review. The women shifted. Full debt review meant seizure before inspection. Ari felt the village looking to her and hated that her mouth had gone dry. Cole stepped forward only far enough to read the slate. "This clause defines paid intervention," he said. "I have not billed them." Sloane smiled. "Aid has value. So does fraud." Ari expected Cole to push harder. Instead, he stopped. He had said enough to show he was not afraid, but not enough to give them a clean charge. After they left, Ari turned on him. "You should not have said fraud. You wanted me to lie? I wanted you to understand they do not need truth to punish us." Cole looked toward the greenhouse. "I understand that better than you think." That night, someone cut the new water line. They also overturned the clean compost and stole one of Tavi's seed boxes. The village woke to Ressa shouting from the trench. Cole arrived before full light. He did not curse. He knelt in the dust and read the damage the way Ari read old weather. "Two people," he said. "One knew where to step. One did not. They came from a mine road and left in a hurry." "Can you follow them?" Ari asked. "Yes." "Then why are you still here?" "Because they wanted us to follow." He showed her the track. A shallow print led away too clearly. Ari's anger cooled into fear. "What do we do?" Cole looked at the seed house, the greenhouse, and the well. "We stopped keeping everything worth saving in one place." By noon, he had changed the village without a speech. He split the seed stock into 3 stores, moved one set of soil samples to his farm, strung metal chimes across the back path, and set old mirror plates near the greenhouse. Then he taught the women how to fall back, hold a tool between themselves and a stronger attacker, and shout a warning that told others where danger was. Ari watched him teach without making them feel small. He never said they were safe. He said they could be ready. In the overturned compost, Cole found a torn strip from a transport seal. It bore the mark of Helix. Oregon. Ari held it between 2 fingers. "So Sloane is not the hand," she said. "No," Cole said. "He is the glove." 10 days remained before inspection. 3 days remained before the storm. The metal dust came early. At dusk, the sky turned the color of scraped iron. The first gust slammed into the village hard enough to make the debt markers on the doors rattle. Cole had warned them to bury the greenhouse edges deep, but the storm hit before the last side could be secured. Ari ran inside with Nima and Ressa. The young plants bent under the shake of the frame. Outside, Cole drove a metal stake into the ground, tied a water rope around it, and pulled the greenhouse brace down with his full weight. "Left seam," he shouted. Ari heard him through the wind. She pushed the women toward the seam and jammed rolled cloth into the gap. Dust sprayed through, stinging her eyes and throat. The frame lifted. Cole threw himself against the outer panel. For one sharp second, the light caught his torn sleeve, and Ari saw the old scar across his shoulder, a pale line that looked nothing like farm work. After the worst gust passed, she found him still holding the brace, jaw clenched, dust packed in his. "Here, you were hurt before," she said. "Long time ago. Inva." He tightened the knot. "In a place I reached too late." She had no answer to that. It was the first thing he had said that felt less like information and more like a door left open. The storm lasted until near dawn. When it ended, half the village was coated in gray dust. The greenhouse still stood. The sprouts still lived. Cole sat on an overturned crate, breathing carefully. Ari brought him a bowl of thin soup. He looked at it, then at her. "You do not have enough to spare." "We do not give it away," she said. "You worked." He accepted the bowl. The exchange was small. No oath passed between them. Yet the women watching from the seed house understood. The human had eaten from their pot, not as a creditor, not as a master, as someone inside the labor of the field. Then the chimes rang at the well. Cole set the bowl down. "Get the real seed boxes out the back," he said. Ari did not ask how he knew. His voice had changed. It was still calm, but everything soft had gone from it. For men moved in the dust beyond the well, their faces covered against the storm grit. One carried a burn canister. Another dragged a chemical drum toward the water channel. Cole cut the main lantern. Darkness dropped over the square. A second later, 2 dim side lamps flared near the gate, throwing false silhouettes across the wall. The attackers turned toward the well and the open square, where Cole wanted them to look. He moved through the dark with a length of hoe handle in one hand. He did not charge. He let the first man step into the mud trench, then struck the weapon from his wrist. The second slipped when the water rope snapped tight across his ankles. Cole drove him down with one shoulder and pinned him against the trough. While Cole drew the attackers away from the greenhouse, Ari led Ressa and Nima through the rear path with the real seed boxes. The boxes held the seed stock that could prove the village still had a future. They passed the false storehouse just as a third attacker broke its lock and found empty clay jars inside. The building had been left to look important, but it held nothing the village could not lose. Now, Ari said. Nima dropped the bar across the door, trapping him long enough for the others to tie it shut. At the well, the fourth attacker tipped the chemical drum. Ari ran. The drum was the worst danger. If it spilled into the water channel, the well could be poisoned beyond recovery. The village could survive a burned shed or a stolen box. It could not survive dead water. Ari did not think of fear. She thought of the sealed main well, the 12 days of food, the green sprout, and the women who had begun to stand straighter. She hit the drum with both hands and shoved it away from the water lip. Cold fire bit through her glove. She gasped but held on. Cole reached her a moment later. He caught the attacker's arm, turned with emotion, and locked him against the well frame. The man struggled once, then stopped when Cole pressed the hoe handle across his wrist. "Move again," Cole said, "and you break your own hand." The man believed him. By sunrise, they had one attacker tied, one chemical drum sealed, and one transport code burned into the metal side. The code belonged to Helix Oregon. Ari's hand shook from the chemical burn. Cole wrapped it with clean cloth from his own kit. "You should have fallen back," he said. "If the well died, falling back would not matter." He looked at her then, not like a protector scolding someone reckless, but like a soldier recognizing another person who had chosen the line. "You are right," he said. Those 3 words settled deeper than comfort. By midday, Mara Vin's notice arrived. Cole Whitaker's farm license was suspended pending review. He was accused of unlawful interference in debt-bound land, damage to merchant property, and incitement of local violence. Ari read the notice twice. "You should leave," she said. Cole was repairing the greenhouse hinge. "No, you could lose your farm." "I know. You have already done enough." He stopped working and looked at her. That is what people say when they want to survive being abandoned. The word struck too close. Ari looked away. Cole lowered his voice. "I will sign responsibility for the technical work. Filters, planting, soil samples, all of it. That gives Talon or one target instead of the whole village. They will use you. They can try. I will not let my people become another debt on your back." "Then do not. Speak for your land when the inspector comes." "I will speak for what I did." Ari held his gaze. This was not rescue as ownership. It was not pity dressed as bravery. It was a man putting himself where the blow would land, while leaving her the part of the fight that had to be hers. The inspection convoy arrived the next morning, a day early. Talon stepped from the lead rover in a gray coat stained by travel dust. He was older than Ari expected, with narrow eyes and a careful way of looking before speaking. He was the inspector who could decide whether Lith remained a living settlement or became abandoned land on paper. Sloan came behind him, polished and confident. Mara Vin carried the contract slate. A Helix representative stood near the road, pretending to be an observer. The village gathered around the small field. It looked damaged. The greenhouse was scorched on one side. The well frame was cracked. Ari's hand was bandaged. Cole's license suspension hung on the inspector's slate like a verdict already written. Sloan began first. "Inspector, this is what happens when a human veteran interferes with a fragile local settlement. These women were misled into unsafe practices. Their debt contract has been violated, and their land remains non-productive." Talon looked at Cole. "Did you conduct unauthorized agricultural work here?" "Yes," Cole said. Ari's breath caught. Cole continued. "I repaired filters, tested soil, helped build the greenhouse, and trained a village to preserve evidence after sabotage. Motive and smiled. You admit interference. I admit work." Talon's eyes sharpened. "Show me the difference." Cole did. He laid out the soil jars in order. Untreated ridge soil. Valari soil before Sloan fertilizer. Valari soil after Sloan fertilizer. Treated test bed soil. He showed the filter residue, the transport seal, the chemical drum from the well, and the route from the old Helix drainage trench. He kept his words plain. No grand speech. No anger for the inspector to dismiss. Then he placed Ari's memory map beside the official survey. The village record predicted the contamination path before my instruments confirmed it, he said. Their map is not superstition. It is environmental history. Sloan laughed. A cloth full of folk marks is not evidence. Talon did not laugh. Cole stepped back. The land claim is not mine, he said. Ari Vela speaks for Lith. Ari felt every eye turned toward her. For years, officials had asked her to sign, answer, submit, accept, acknowledge. They had never asked her to speak, as if the land might answer through her. She stepped forward with her bandaged hand held against her chest. This field was not dead when my mother planted it, she said. This well was not bitter before the mine road cracked. This corner held silverleaf after the dry year. We marked every change because no one else would. She pointed to the map. Here the water changed taste. Here Sloan's fertilizer was first used. Here the leaves curled. Here our seeds stopped returning. Every season, we were told we failed. Every season, the debt grew. Every season, the land office came closer to calling our home abandoned. Her voice shook once, then steadied. We are not asking to be rescued from our land. We are proving we still belong to it. Ari opened the locket and placed her mother's seed on the table. Beside it, Tavi placed the first tiny sample from the living row. This seed was carried from the last true harvest. The human did not make that pass for us. He believed us when we said it existed. The square was silent. Talon walked to the greenhouse. He knelt with difficulty and touched the green leaves. They were small, fragile, real. He looked at the chemical drum, then at the transport mark, then at Sloan. This inspection is suspended, Talon said. Sloan's face changed. Inspector. Debt enforcement is frozen pending fraud review. The abandoned holding petition is denied pending restoration status. The settlement of Lith retains residency rights. Mara Vin started to protest. Talon turned to her. Your office will provide all communications with Helix or by morning. The Helix representative stepped back toward the road. Cole watched him go, but did not follow. His job was not to chase a company into the dust. His job was to keep the field alive long enough for truth to take root. Weeks later, the first harvest from the test field fit into 3 shallow baskets. It was not enough to make Lith rich. It was not enough to heal the valley. It was not enough to erase the debt years, the hunger, or the names of those who had gone to the mines and never returned. But it was food grown from their own soil. The women gathered in the field without ceremony. Ressa laughed and then covered her mouth. Nima pressed both hands to the greenhouse frame she had rebuilt. Tavi counted the seeds twice, then stopped because her eyes had filled. Ari stood with the copper locket open in her palm. Her mother's dead seed rested inside. Beside it lay new seeds from the living row, pale and small and impossible. The village chose a new name for the plot. The first returning field. Cole heard it from the edge of the rows. His farm license was still under review. His own fields had gone half neglected while he worked at Lith. Helix had not forgotten him. Sloan's people would not forgive him. Still, when Ari walked toward him, he looked less tired than he had in all the weeks before. She held out a small cloth packet. Cole did not take it at once. What is this? He asked. Seeds from the first return. Those belong to your people. They do. Then you should keep them. Ari's mouth softened, not quite a smile. In Valari custom, first return seeds are only given to someone invited into the next season. Cole looked at the field, then at the women who had stopped pretending not to watch. Ari said, this is not payment. It is not a debt. It is not worship. I know. Do you? Cole met her eyes. I'm trying to. That answer pleased her more than certainty would have. She placed the packet in his hands. Her bandaged hand had healed enough to close around his for one brief moment. Next season, she said, do not plan alone. Cole held the seeds with both hands. Ari remembered the first day at his fence when she had thought every human kindness must hide a chain. She remembered him asking before touching her mother's seed. She remembered him standing in the dark before the greenhouse until her people could stand in daylight. Talon Or's final report would later state that the Valari of Lith had been misclassified, exploited, and targeted for displacement. What Cole Whitaker had shown them was not simply that humans could fight. Everyone knew that. The settled worlds had records full of human wars. What they had not understood was quieter. A human could carry war inside him and still choose to build. He could take command, but he gave it back. He could make the village owe him, but he gave them tools instead. He did not stand in front forever. He stood there just long enough for Ari and her people to step forward. The first meal from the field was simple. Root mash, green leaves, clean water, and a bread so thin it broke when lifted too quickly. Cole ate with the village from a clay bowl, seated on an overturned crate near the greenhouse. No one called him savior. Ari was glad. A savior stood above people. Cole sat among them, dusty, tired, and careful with the bowl they had given him. At sunset, the metal dust over Marinefall turned gold for a few quiet minutes. The first returning field moved in the wind, small leaves shining under the low light. Ari touched the empty space in her locket where the old seed had rested for years. Then she looked at the new rows, at the women standing straighter, at the human farmer holding a packet of Valari seeds as if it weighed more than land. For the first time since her mother's last harvest, Ari did not feel as if she were guarding the memory of a dead future. She was standing inside the beginning of a living one. When Cole Whitaker first came to Marinefall, he only wanted a quiet piece of land, a working well, and a season that did not belong to war. But some fields do not only need water. They need someone willing to stand beside them when the world has already called them dead. The Valari women were not saved because they were weak. They survived because they still had memory, dignity, and the courage to believe in. One more season. Cole did not hand them a future as a gift. He helped them hold the line long enough to take it back with their own hands. Maybe that is what made humanity different. Not only strength, not only courage, but the stubborn refusal to let someone else's hope be buried while there is still one seed left to protect. If this story stayed with you, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might enjoy emotional science fiction stories like this. Your support helps this channel grow and allows more stories of courage, survival, and unexpected bonds across the stars to reach new listeners. Thank you for spending your time here. And until the next story, may you always find a little green still waiting beneath the dust.